I want to begin with a name. Anne Frank. She was 13 when she went into hiding. She loved movies. She fought with her mother and adored her father. She wrote in her diary about wanting to be a writer, about boys she liked, about the world. She imagined living in after the war. She was arrested in August 1944, sent to Auschwitz, then Bergen-Belsen. She died there in February 1945 of typhus in a concentration camp, surrounded by death and disease. She was 15 years old. She is one name out of 6 million. Understanding how 6 million human beings were systematically murdered in modern Europe in the 20th century by an educated, cultured, democratic nation is one of the most important things any person alive today can do. Not because it is comfortable, because it is necessary. Germany, after World War II, need to understand the Holocaust. You must understand. Germany in 1919. Germany had lost World War I. The Versailles Treaty placed the entire blame for the war on Germany and imposed reparations, so crushing that the German economy simply could not bear them. Hyperinflation destroyed savings overnight. People burned paper money for heat because firewood cost more. A wheelbarrow of cash would not buy a loaf of bread. Then the Great Depression of 1929 hit. Unemployment reached 30%. The democratic Weimar Republic, which had never been fully trusted or fully stable, seemed completely unable to respond. The people were humiliated, desperate, furious, looking for someone to blame and looking for someone to follow. Into that vacuum stepped Adolf Hitler. The RSC Hitler was not an obvious leader. He was Austrian-born, poorly educated, had failed as an artist, and had lived as a homeless man in Vienna before the First World War. He had no prestigious family, no money, no connections. What he had was a voice. He could speak. He could read a crowd. He could take the confusion and pain and fury of millions of people and channel it into something simple and powerful. Germany had been betrayed, he said, by enemies within specifically Jews and communists. Germany's greatness would be restored. The German people were exceptional and had been robbed of what was rightfully theirs. None of it was true. But to desperate people, it felt true. In January 1933, Hitler was legally appointed Chancellor of Germany. Within months, he had dismantled the democratic system completely. The Reichstag, the German parliament, passed a law giving him total power. Political opponents were arrested. The press was controlled. Germany became a one-party state in less than a year, legally, without a revolution. That is perhaps the most frightening part of the entire story. The persecution BG Scheinester, targeting of Jewish people, started immediately in April 1933. 3 months after Hitler took power, the government organized a national boycott of Jewish businesses. Jewish doctors, lawyers, and professors were removed from their positions. Jewish children were humiliated in schools. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 stripped Jewish people of citizenship. Jews could not marry non-Jews. Jews could not vote. Jews could not hold government jobs. In legal terms, they were no longer fully human. Members of German society. Then came Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass on November 9th, 1938. Nazi mobs attacked Jewish businesses. homes, and synagogues across Germany and Austria. Over 7,000 Jewish businesses were destroyed. Over 1,400 synagogues burned. 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and sent to concentration camps. The message was unmistakable. Jews were not safe in Germany. Many fled, but many could not. Other countries drastically limited Jewish immigration. America turned away ships carrying Jewish refugees. Britain restricted immigration to Palestine. The doors were closing. Those who could not escape were trapped. The final SOLUTO. And when Germany invaded Poland in 1939 and then the Soviet Union in 1941, the Holocaust entered its most terrifying phase. Special killing units, the Einsatzgruppen, followed the German army into the Soviet Union and shot Jewish communities in mass executions. They would march people to pits, forests, or ravines, make them dig, then shoot them at Babi Yar, a ravine outside Kyiv. 33,771 Jews were shot in 2 days. September 29th and 30th, 1941. 33,000 people in 48 hours. But shooting was considered slow and traumatic for the shooters. In January 1942, senior Nazi officials met at a villa outside Berlin, the Wannsee Conference, and planned the complete, systematic murder of all 11 million Jews in Europe. They called it the final solution to the Jewish question: death. Camps were constructed and occupied: Poland, Auschwitzberg, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Chelmna, Majdanek. People arrived by train, told they were being resettled. At Auschwitz, SS doctors selected those arriving on the platform. Those deemed fit for labor were put to work. The elderly, children, mothers with young children, the majority, were taken directly to gas chambers, disguised as shower rooms. They were killed with Zyklon B gas, then their bodies were burned. This happened every day. For years, the people who CHO Sahau did ordinary people participate in this? This is the question that historians have wrestled with for 80 years. The guards were not all fanatics. Research shows that many ordinary German men, policemen, soldiers, clerks, were involved in mass killings, and were sometimes given the explicit choice to opt out. Almost none did. They killed because they went along, because they followed orders, because stepping out would have made them different from their colleagues, because propaganda had taught them that Jewish people were subhuman, a disease, a threat, an enemy. Hannah Arendt, who covered the trial of Adolf Eichmann, one of the Holocaust's chief bureaucratic organizers, called it the banality of evil. Not screaming monsters, but a quiet, educated man in a suit, filling out paperwork, following procedures, not asking what happened. Next, evil does not always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like paperwork. Liberation and JUST allied. Forces began liberating the camps in 1945. What they found shocked even soldiers who had seen the worst of combat. General Dwight Eisenhower, upon visiting a liberated camp, ordered extensive documentation, photographs, testimonies, records. He understood, already in 1945, that people would one day try to deny this had happened. The Nuremberg trials held surviving Nazi leaders accountable. They established the legal principle of crimes against humanity, that certain acts are so monstrous that they are crimes against all of humanity, regardless of whether any individual country's law prohibits them. It was the beginning of modern international human rights law, born directly from the ashes of the Holocaust. Anne Frank's diary was found after the war by her father, Otto, the only member of her immediate family to survive. He spent years deciding whether to publish it. He did. It has sold 30 million copies, been translated into 70 languages, been read by children in classrooms across the world for 70 years. A 15-year-old girl who wanted to be a writer, who believed, even in hiding, that people were good at heart. She is remembered. All 6 million must be remembered, because memory is not just about the past. It is a warning. It is a declaration. It is a promise, not to those who died, but to ourselves, that we will not look away again. History shows us what human beings are capable of, both kinds. The question it leaves us with is not about them, it is about us. What would we have done?